At 2:17 in the morning, Mara Bennett heard the most dangerous man in Chicago order her taken before sunrise. The sentence came through black studio headphones inside the FBI's underground surveillance center, 3 floors beneath a federal building near the Chicago River. Outside, rain struck the narrow windows in hard silver lines. Inside, every monitor glowed blue against the dark. Mara leaned closer to the waveform. The audio was damaged, half static, half whispered Italian, but the voice was unmistakable. Dante Vescari. He spoke quietly, the way powerful men did when they had never needed to repeat themselves. "Take Mara Bennett before sunrise." Mara stopped breathing. On the screen, Dante's photograph stared back from a federal file. 38. Head of the Vescari organization. No convictions. No surviving witnesses willing to testify twice. She replayed the sentence. "Take Mara Bennett before sunrise." The final word dissolved beneath interference. Her hand moved toward the emergency button, but she hesitated. A translator's first duty was accuracy. Fear could change a verb. She isolated the channel and ran the phrase again. This time, she heard another voice beneath the static, male, American, familiar enough to tighten something cold beneath her ribs. Then the recording cut out. The monitor went black. Mara pressed the emergency button. Red lights ignited across the ceiling. Within 90 seconds, Supervisory Agent Daniel Cole entered with 4 armed officers. Cole was tall and unfailingly polite, the kind of man who made danger sound administrative. "What did you hear?" Dante Vescari ordered someone to take me before sunrise. Cole's expression barely changed, but 2 agents behind him exchanged a glance. Did he say why? No. Did he know this channel was monitored? He shouldn't have. Cole looked toward the dead monitor. Then either he wanted us to hear it, or someone wanted you to believe he did. That possibility frightened her more. Cole ordered her phone surrendered, her badge disabled, and her apartment sealed. 10 minutes later, Mara was escorted through a private elevator toward a secure transport garage. She had spent 6 years translating men like Dante Vescari. She understood coded threats and false loyalties, yet she had never met him. At least, that was what she believed. The garage doors began to open. Then every light went out. The elevator stopped with a violent shudder. Someone reached for the emergency panel. The radios filled with static. Mara heard one dull impact outside the elevator, then another. Not gunfire. Something controlled. "Mara, stay behind me," Cole ordered. A thin line of white appeared as the elevator doors were forced apart from outside. A man stepped through. He wore a black overcoat darkened by rain. No mask, no visible weapon. He did not hurry. Dante Vescari looked larger in person than in photographs, because everyone else seemed smaller when he entered. Cole raised his gun. Dante glanced at it with complete indifference. "You have 7 minutes," he said to Mara. "Until what?" "Until the people assigned to protect you deliver you to the men who paid them." Cole's jaw tightened. "Do not listen to him." Dante's grey eyes remained on Mara. "The recording was altered," he said. "My order was to take you before sunrise because your safe house had already been sold. You expect me to believe you broke into a federal building to rescue me? No. I expect you to survive long enough to learn. I'm telling the truth." Cole stepped between them. "She's not going anywhere with you." Dante's expression did not change. "She already has." An alarm sounded from the garage. Red lights returned, revealing black smoke curling beneath the far security door. Cole turned. Dante moved instantly. He caught Mara by the wrist, not painfully, but with a grip that allowed no misunderstanding, and pulled her through the elevator opening. Mara fought him. "Let go of me. When we reach the car, I am not getting into your car. Then choose another one while the building burns." They crossed the garage as sprinklers erupted overhead. Water struck the concrete in glittering sheets. 2 black SUVs waited near a service ramp, engines running. Mara dug her heels into the floor. Dante turned. For the first time, something broke through his control. Not anger, fear. It vanished, so quickly she almost believed she had imagined it. Then the windshield of a federal vehicle shattered behind her. Dante pulled her against his chest and turned his body between hers and the flying glass. The world became rain, alarms, and his hand at the back of her head. He lowered his mouth near her ear. "They know your name," he said. "They know where you live, and they know what your mother hid from them 20 years ago." Mara went still. "My mother died 20 years ago." Dante opened the Save door. "No," he said quietly. "She disappeared." Behind them, the federal garage filled with smoke. Ahead, Chicago vanished beneath the rain, and with Dante's hand still locked around hers, Mara understood that the man she had feared for 6 years might be the only person left who knew why everyone else wanted her dead. The Save tore out of the federal garage and into the rain before Mara could decide whether she had been rescued or abducted. Chicago blurred past in red brake lights and black glass. Dante sat beside her, already calm. Across from them, a scarred man watched the road through a surveillance screen. "It will open when we are clear," Dante said. "You forced me into a car. I removed you from a compromised building. You put your hands on me, and you are alive." She turned toward him. "You used my name on an intercepted channel, because someone inside the bureau was preparing to move you, to protect me, to deliver you." 2 identical Saves split away at the next intersection. "Decoys," Dante watched her notice. "You have 3 phones in your bag," he said. "1 federal, 1 personal, and 1 you bought in cash after Agent Cole restricted your case access." A colder fear replaced her anger. "How do you know that? I know what keeps you alive." That was not my question. No, his gaze held hers. It was the question beneath it. The scarred man looked up. "3 vehicles behind us." Dante gave a single nod. "Route C." Mara looked between them. "Where are you taking me?" "To the safe house the FBI assigned you." "Why? So you can watch it fail." The SUV stopped inside an abandoned parking structure across from a brick townhouse. A federal sedan waited outside. Mara recognized the address Cole had shown her. Dante handed her a small earpiece. "What is this?" "The reason you are going to stop calling me a liar." Headlights appeared at the end of the street. A government van rolled toward the townhouse. 4 men stepped out wearing FBI jackets. For 1 foolish second, Mara relaxed. Then she saw how they moved not like agents securing a witness, but like men who knew no resistance, waited inside. One carried a hard-sided medical case. Another drew a suppressed pistol. Mara put in the earpiece. A voice crackled through it. "Bennett was supposed to be here by now." Another replied. "Cole said Vescari interfered." The first man opened the case. Inside were syringes, restraints, and a folded plastic sheet. Dante watched Mara instead of the street. She whispered, "This could be staged." "Yes." Her eyes snapped toward him. "You should doubt everything I show you," he said, "especially when fear makes it convenient to believe me." One of the men raised a phone. Mara's personal phone vibrated. Daniel Cole's name appeared. Dante's expression hardened. "Do not answer," she answered anyway. "Mara," Cole sounded breathless, "Vescari has taken you. We have a team at the safe house. Tell me where you are." Mara looked down at the men waiting beneath the rain. "Are you alone?" she asked. A pause. "Of course." Through the earpiece, a man beside the townhouse murmured, "Cole has her on the line." Mara ended the call. Dante reached toward her, then stopped before touching her face. His hand remained between them for half a second before he lowered it. "Now you understand." "No, I understand Cole lied. That does not make you innocent." A humorless smile touched Dante's mouth. "I have never asked you to think I am innocent." Gunfire cracked across the street. The townhouse windows burst outward. The false agents dropped behind their vehicles as a second team emerged from the alley. 2 groups, both expecting Mara. Dante's men moved instantly. The scarred man opened the SUV door. "We have to move." A shot struck concrete above them. Dante pulled Mara behind the engine block as car alarms screamed. She saw one of the false agents aiming beneath a sedan directly at her. Dante saw him too. He stepped into the line of fire before she could stop him. 2 shots sounded. The man dropped behind the car. Dante never looked away from Mara. "Stay behind me. You could have been hit. So could you. That does not make this sane." "No," he said. "It makes it necessary." They ran into a concrete stairwell while his men sealed the entrance. Mara slipped on the wet steps. Dante caught her at the waist and pulled her against him. For one breath, neither moved. His face was inches from hers. His hand tightened at her side as though his body had reacted before his control. Mara felt the danger in him. She also felt the fear, not for himself. For her, he released her first. On the rooftop, a helicopter waited beneath the open sky, its blades turning. Mara stopped. "I am not getting on that." Dante faced her while rain whipped around them. "Then stay and choose which corrupt institution claims you first. You keep speaking as though I belong to someone." His expression changed, slowly, darkly. "You do not belong to them." Her federal phone lit with a new message from Daniel Cole. "Do not trust Vescari. He killed your mother." Mara looked up. Dante had already read the screen. For the first time, the feared Mafia Boss lost all expression, and Mara understood that the next truth might be worse than the lie that had brought her into his car. Mara did not board the helicopter because she trusted Dante. She boarded because Daniel Cole had just accused him of murdering her mother, and Dante had looked less like a guilty man than a man hearing an old wound torn open. The city dropped away beneath them. Rain streaked across the windows as the helicopter crossed downtown Chicago toward a black glass tower overlooking the river. Dante sat opposite her, silent, one hand resting near the blood, darkening the sleeve of his coat. Mara noticed it immediately. "You were hit. It is not serious. That is what men say before losing consciousness. I am not going to lose consciousness." "You sound very certain." "I am." His calm irritated her more than panic would have. When the helicopter landed on the rooftop, Dante stepped out. First, his men formed a moving perimeter around them. Mara hated how efficiently the world obeyed him. The penthouse occupied the entire upper floor. It was colder than she expected. Black marble, steel, floor-to-ceiling windows, no photographs, no personal objects, nothing that suggested a human being lived there. A private doctor waited near the fireplace. Dante removed his coat. The bullet had only grazed his upper arm, but the wound was still bleeding. Mara watched the doctor cut away the fabric. Dante did not flinch. "You can stop staring," he said. "I'm deciding whether the great Dante Vescari is actually human. And the evidence is inconclusive." The doctor glanced between them and wisely said nothing. When the wound was cleaned and bandaged, Dante dismissed everyone except the scarred man from the Suve. "This is Matteo," Dante said. "He will remain outside your door." Mara folded her arms. "My door? You will stay here tonight?" "No. The elevator requires my authorization." "Then authorize it." No, there it was. Not a request. Not even a threat. A decision. Mara stepped closer. "You do not get to move me from one cage into another and call it protection." Dante's eyes cooled. "You are alive because I ignored what I was permitted to do." "And what exactly were you permitted to do?" "Watch." The word landed too quietly. Mara studied him. "Watch what?" Dante turned toward the wall. A hidden panel slid open. Behind it was a room filled with monitors. For several seconds, Mara did not understand what she was seeing. Then she recognized the entrance to her apartment building, the coffee shop across from her office, the parking garage where she left her car, the narrow street behind her favorite bookstore. Her breath stopped. Dozens of camera feeds covered the wall. Some were live, others were archived by date. 18 months of her life. Mara walked toward the screens as though approaching the scene of a crime. One recording showed her leaving for work in a blue coat. Another showed her jogging beside the lake. Another showed her standing alone outside her apartment in the rain, crying after the anniversary of her mother's death. She turned slowly. "You watched me." Dante did not deny it. "You followed me." "Yes. You recorded me. Public locations only. The precision of the answer made her sick. You think that makes this better? No. Then explain it. Dante remained near the doorway, his face unreadable. 18 months ago, someone searched sealed records connected to Evelyn Bennett. My mother. Yes, the records were classified, I know. How? Because my father paid to classify them. Mara felt the room tilt. Dante continued. After the search, men began appearing near your apartment. Different faces, different vehicles, same pattern. And instead of warning me, you built a surveillance network. If I warned you, you would have told Cole. I trusted him. That was the problem. Mara moved closer until only a few feet separated them. You manipulated my life. I kept you breathing. You do not get to use survival as permission for everything. His jaw tightened. No, he said. I used necessity. That is what controlling men call obsession when they want it to sound noble. Something shifted in his eyes. He stepped toward her. Mara did not move. You want honesty? He asked. Yes. I knew when you changed your route home. Another step. I knew when you stopped sleeping. Another. I knew which nights you left your lights on because you were afraid of dreaming about the fire that killed your mother. Mara's throat tightened. How do you know about the dreams? Dante stopped inches away. Because you spoke about them once. To whom? To me. The room went silent. Mara searched his face for mockery and found none. We have never met. We met 20 years ago. A memory moved at the edge of her mind. Rain against stained glass. A man's hand covered in blood. A boy standing beside a church altar. She forced it away. You are lying. Dante reached into his jacket slowly and removed a small silver pendant. Mara recognized it before he opened his hand. A broken wing angel. Her mother had worn one exactly like it. Mara grabbed his wrist. Where did you get that? From you. Her fingers tightened. I was 9 years old when my mother died. You were 9 when she made you believe she died. Mara released him as though burned. Dante placed the pendant on the desk between them. Your mother brought you to a church on the south side. She told you to give this to me if anything happened. Why would she trust you? She didn't. Then why? Because she trusted the boy I was before my father turned me into what I am. The words carried no self-pity. That made them worse. Mara stared at the pendant. What did my mother hide? A ledger. What was in it? Names, accounts, payments, federal agents, judges, families. Your family? Yes, and you want it. I wanted it before I knew you. The answer struck harder than a lie. Mara looked back at the wall of screens. And after, Dante did not respond. She turned. After what? After you started watching me. His gaze lowered briefly to her mouth, then returned to her eyes. After that, he said quietly. The ledger became less important. Mara hated the heat that moved through her at his voice. She hated that part of her believed him. A sharp alarm interrupted them. Matteo entered without knocking. We have a breach. Dante's expression changed instantly. How many? Unknown. The east elevator is moving without authorization. The monitors went black one by one. Mara looked toward the dark windows. A red laser point appeared against the glass. Dante crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled her down as the window shattered above them. Glass rained across the floor. He covered her with his body, one arm locked around her waist. Stay down. Mara felt his heartbeat against her back. Fast. Not from fear for himself. Dante drew a gun and looked toward the hallway. The elevator doors opened, and through the smoke stepped Daniel Cole. Daniel Cole stepped from the elevator with his gun raised and rain shining across the shoulders of his federal jacket. Dante remained over Mara, shielding her from the shattered window. Move away from her, Cole ordered. Dante's voice was almost bored. You brought men into my building. I came alone. Then the bodies in the east stairwell learned to walk. Mara pushed against Dante's chest. Let me up. His arm tightened once before he released her. Cole looked at the broken glass, the dark monitors and the gun in Dante's hand. Mara, come to me, she rose slowly. How did you find this place? Your federal phone. It was disabled. We can reactivate bureau equipment remotely. Dante gave a quiet laugh. Cole's attention snapped toward him. You think this is amusing? I think you answer too quickly. Mara stepped between them before either man could decide for her. Put the guns down. Neither moved. I said put them down. Dante lowered his first, not because he trusted Cole, because Mara had asked. Cole hesitated, then did the same. The gesture should have reassured her. Instead, she noticed his finger remained inside the trigger guard until the final second. You told me Dante killed my mother, Mara said. Cole reached slowly into his coat. Dante's hand moved toward his weapon again. It's a recorder, Cole said. He placed a small evidence player on the marble table. This was recovered from a sealed intelligence archive 3 days ago. Your mother recorded it before she disappeared. Mara stared at the machine. Why didn't you tell me? Because we were verifying it. You had time to send an accusation. I needed to stop you from trusting him. Cole pressed play. Static filled the room. Then a woman's voice emerged, soft, controlled, familiar enough to break something open inside Mara. Mara, my sweet girl, if you ever hear this, I am sorry. Mara gripped the edge of the table. She had spent 20 years surviving on fragments of her mother's voice, an old birthday tape. A voicemail preserved by an aunt, a lullaby she could no longer remember completely. This was Evelyn Bennett. I made choices that placed you in danger. The Vescari family cannot be trusted. Dante knows where the ledger is. Do not let him use you to find it. The recording crackled. If he comes for you, run. The file ended. Mara could not look at Dante. Cole stepped closer. Come with me. We have a secure extraction team waiting. Like the one at the townhouse. His expression changed. What townhouse? The safe house you assigned me. I never assigned you a townhouse. The lie came too smoothly. Mara finally looked toward Dante. His face revealed nothing, but the hand at his side had curled into a fist. He had heard Evelyn's voice, too. Is it real? Mara asked him. Yes. Cole exhaled sharply. There you heard him? I heard him say the voice is real. Mara turned back to the recorder. That does not mean the sentence is. She pressed play again. This time she closed her eyes. The first half carried room tone, a low mechanical vibration, perhaps an air vent. After the words Vescari family, the background frequency shifted. Tiny, almost invisible. But Mara had built her career on the spaces between words. She replayed the final section. Dante knows where the ledger is. There was no inhalation before Dante's name. The consonant arrived too cleanly, spliced. Mara opened her eyes. You edited it. Cole's face remained calm. You're under stress. You removed at least 2 words. Dante's gaze sharpened. Mara isolated the audio through the player's controls. She slowed it, adjusted the frequency, and raised the buried background channel. Her mother's voice returned, distorted but complete. The Vescari family cannot be trusted. Dante's father knows where the ledger is. Do not let him use you to find it. Silence swallowed the room. Dante looked at Cole with something colder than rage. You changed a dead woman's warning to condemn me. Cole's hand moved beneath his jacket. Dante was faster. He crossed the distance, caught Cole's wrist and drove him against the wall. The gun fell across the marble. Mara grabbed it before either man could. Stop! Dante's forearm pressed against Cole's throat. Dante, he looked at her. She raised the weapon, not directly at him, but close enough to make the boundary clear. Let him breathe. For one dangerous second, she saw how little Cole's life meant to him. Then Dante stepped back. Cole straightened his collar, humiliation burning beneath his composure. You think finding one edit proves he is protecting you? He asked. Ask him what happened in St. Michael's Church. A flash struck Mara's mind. Candles, rain, her mother kneeling before her. A teenage boy with blood on his white shirt. Dante, the memory vanished before she could hold it. What happened there? Mara whispered. Dante's gaze stayed on Cole. Your mother stole the ledger from my father and brought it to the church. Yes. Were you there? Yes. Cole smiled without warmth. Tell her the rest. The penthouse lights flickered. Matteo's voice sounded through Dante's earpiece. They cut the backup power. More movement on the roof. Dante looked toward Mara. We leave now. Cole stepped in front of the hallway. She leaves with federal protection. Mara lifted the gun between them. No one is taking me anywhere until I decide. A low explosion shook the upper floor. The glass walls trembled. Smoke began seeping beneath the security doors. Dante moved toward Mara, then stopped when she raised the weapon slightly, his voice lowered. You can hate me in the car. You still think I'm going with you. I think you heard the men outside. So did Cole. Dante glanced at him. Cole invited them. Cole reached for the fallen recorder. Mara saw a small red light blinking beneath its casing. Not an evidence seal, a transmitter. Drop it, she said. Cole froze. Dante understood immediately. He grabbed Mara as gunfire tore through the security door. They fell behind the marble bar, while Matteo returned fire from the hall. Cole ran toward the elevator. The doors opened before he reached them. 2 masked men stood inside. Cole stopped. The surprise on his face was genuine. They had not come to rescue him. One raised a weapon toward Mara. Dante stepped into the open and fired twice. The elevator doors closed on the attackers as alarms screamed through the penthouse. Cole disappeared into the smoke. Dante turned back to Mara. Are you hurt? No. He touched her shoulder, then her face, searching for blood. His fingers paused against her cheek, as though he had forgotten. He was not allowed. Mara should have moved away. She did not. You believed the recording for a moment, he said. It was my mother's voice. I know. There was no accusation in his tone, only understanding. That frightened her more than anger. Matteo appeared beside a concealed stairwell. The roof is gone. We used the service tunnels. Dante took Mara's hand. This time she did not fight him. They descended through darkness while the tower burned above them. At the bottom of the stairwell, Mara stopped beside a faded mosaic of an angel with one broken wing, the same angel as her pendant. A memory returned with brutal clarity. Her mother's hands were shaking as she fastened the necklace around 9-year-old Mara's throat. When the bells ring 13 times, Evelyn had whispered, "Look beneath the saint who has no face." Mara stared at the broken wing angel. She finally remembered where she had heard the bells. St. Michael's Church, and in the memory, Dante had not been chasing her mother. He had been standing beside her, helping her hide. The service tunnel beneath Dante's tower smelled of rust, wet concrete, and old electricity. Mara followed him through ankle-deep water, while emergency lights pulsed red along the walls. Matteo moved ahead with 2 guards, checking every intersection. Behind them, the penthouse alarms faded into the distance. St. Michael's Church, Mara said. Dante did not turn. My mother took me there. Yes, you helped her hide something. His silence confirmed it. Mara pulled her hand from his. Stop walking. Dante stopped immediately. The men ahead continued until he raised 2 fingers. They disappeared around the next corner, leaving Mara and Dante alone beneath the flickering lights. What did we hide? She asked. I never saw it. You expect me to believe that? Your mother trusted me with you, not the ledger. You were, what, 18? 17, and already working for your father. His expression hardened. Already owned by him. The answer unsettled her. Mara remembered a frightened boy in a blood-stained shirt, standing beneath candles while Evelyn whispered instructions. He had seemed dangerous even then, but not to her. What happened after the church? My father arrived. Did he kill her? No. How can you be sure? Because I helped her leave Chicago? Mara stared at him. You knew she survived. For 11 days. And then? She disappeared from everyone. Why didn't you tell me? Dante's gaze dropped briefly. Because your grief kept you ordinary. The words struck like an insult. You let me mourn her for 20 years because it was convenient. Because a daughter, searching for a missing intelligence officer, would have lasted a week. A daughter mourning a dead mother could build a life. You made that decision for me. Yes, the lack of apology ignited her anger. Mara shoved him. Dante barely moved. She shoved him again. You watched me visit an empty grave. His jaw tightened. You watched me talk to a woman who might still be alive. Yes, her palm struck his face. The sound echoed through the tunnel. Dante's guards appeared at the far corner, weapons raised. He looked at them once. They vanished again. Mara's hand trembled. Dante slowly turned his face back toward her. A red mark appeared along his cheekbone. Do it again if you need to. I need you to stop deciding which pain I'm allowed to feel. Something flickered in his eyes. That is the one thing I do not know how to do. A metallic door opened ahead. Music rolled into the tunnel, low bass, piano, and the murmur of hundreds of voices. They entered beneath an underground nightclub, hidden below an abandoned hotel. The main room was built like a cathedral for criminals. Black marble pillars rose toward a vaulted ceiling. Gold light burned behind smoked glass. Politicians, businessmen, and men Mara, recognized from surveillance files, sat at private tables. The music stopped when Dante entered. Every conversation died with it. Mara felt hundreds of eyes move toward them. Dante placed one hand at the small of her back. She stiffened. Don't. His hand remained. There are 3 men in this room who have offered money for you. Then remove your hand before they think I belong to you. They already think that. I don't. His fingers pressed slightly against her spine. This is not the place to prove independence. That sounds like a threat. It is advice from the man keeping you alive. A silver-haired man approached with 2 guards. Mara recognized him as Viktor Saranov, an international broker linked to 3 rival families. So this is the Translator, Viktor said. Dante shifted half a step in front of her. Viktor smiled. The bureau made her look less interesting. Mara answered before Dante could. And your photographs made you look taller. Several men nearby went still. Victor's smile disappeared. Dante's thumb moved once against her back. A warning or approval. She has your arrogance, Viktor said. She has nothing of mine, Dante replied. The words should have reassured Mara. Instead, his voice carried something darker. Possession denied too carefully. Viktor studied her. Does she know what her mother sold? My mother didn't sell anything. No. Viktor looked amused. Evelyn Bennett traded federal secrets to keep Dante alive. Mara turned toward him. Viktor continued, enjoying the damage. Dante's father discovered his son had warned Evelyn about the purge. She used the ledger to buy the boy's life. Mara looked at Dante. Is that true? Before he could answer, the club's lights went out. A gunshot cracked from the balcony. Dante drove Mara behind a stone column as the room erupted. Guests screamed and overturned tables. Security shutters slammed across the exits. Stay here, he ordered. I can help identify voices. You can help by breathing. Another shot struck the column. Dante leaned out and fired toward the balcony. Mara caught fragments of Russian through the darkness. The woman alive. Vescari expendable. They don't want to kill me, she whispered. They want to separate us. Dante looked at her. That realization changed him. His control did not break loudly. It disappeared. He pulled her against his chest. One arm locked around her as he signaled to Matteo. No one approaches her. Matteo nodded. The west tunnel is open. Viktor emerged from the smoke with a gun in one hand. Dante, give her to me, and this ends. Dante stepped in front of Mara. You entered my house. This is neutral ground. Not anymore. Dante reached into his coat and removed a small remote. Mara saw the panic in Victor's face. What did you do? She asked. Dante pressed the button. A series of explosions sounded beneath the far side of the club, not close enough to harm the guests, but powerful enough to destroy the private vaults behind the walls. Gold records, account books, and encrypted servers vanished behind fireproof barriers. Viktor stared in disbelief. You destroyed 30 years of family assets. Dante's eyes never left him. You thought they were worth more than she was. The ceiling sprinklers activated, pouring water through golden light. For one suspended second, Dante stood between Mara and an entire criminal world, his face cold, his ruined empire burning behind him. Then Victor raised his gun. Mara shouted. Dante turned and covered her as Matteo fired. Victor fell behind a table. Dante caught Mara's face between both hands. "Look at me. I'm fine. Look at me." She did. Rain from the sprinklers ran through his hair and down his jaw. His breathing was uneven. His hands trembled slightly against her skin. The most feared man in Chicago looked terrified. Not because his club was burning, because he had almost been too late. "I will not lose you in another church," he said. Mara froze. Another church. Before she could ask what he meant, a bell rang somewhere beneath the club. Once, twice, then again, Mara looked toward the flooded tunnel. The sound continued until the 13th strike, and behind a metal security gate, illuminated by fire, stood a weathered stone statue of a saint whose face had been removed. The 13th bell faded beneath the burning club. For 1 second, Mara forgot the men shouting behind them, the water pouring from the ceiling and the smoke moving through the gold-lit room. She saw only the faceless saint behind the security gate. "When the bells ring 13 times, she whispered, "look beneath the saint who has no face." Dante went still. "You remember part of it." Matteo forced the gate open while Dante led Mara into the narrow passage beyond it. The stone statue stood inside an abandoned service chapel, blackened by age and hidden beneath the city for decades. The saint's face had been deliberately chiseled away. Mara knelt at its base. Her fingers moved across cracked marble until they found a shallow carving shaped like a broken wing. Dante crouched beside her. "Your necklace," he said. She removed the pendant and pressed it into the carving. A hidden mechanism clicked. The base of the statue opened. Inside was not the ledger. There was only a brass key and a child's cassette tape wrapped in rotting cloth. Mara stared at the handwritten label. For Mara, when she remembers, her mother's handwriting. Dante reached for the tape, then stopped before touching it. Mara noticed. "You're afraid of what she says. I'm afraid of what it will do to you. That has never stopped you before." His eyes lifted to hers. "No, it has not." They escaped the club through an old drainage tunnel and emerged beside the river, nearly a mile away. Rain swept across the empty industrial docks. A black sedan waited beneath a warehouse awning. Dante did not take Mara back to the penthouse. Instead, he brought her to a hidden safe house, above an abandoned tailor shop in Little Italy. The apartment was narrow and unexpectedly warm, with old wooden floors, faded green walls and a single bedroom. No marble, no guards visible, no luxury. "This belonged to my mother," Dante said. Mara looked at him. He had never mentioned her. "Is she alive?" "No." The way he answered ended the question. Matteo found an old cassette player in a cabinet. When he left, Dante locked the door and checked every window himself. Mara placed the tape inside the player. Her hand would not stop trembling. Dante stood across the room. "Stay," she said. It was the first time she had asked him to. He moved closer but did not sit beside her. Mara pressed play. Static crackled. Then Evelyn Bennett began to speak. "Mara, if you are hearing this, the memories are returning." Mara closed her eyes. "The ledger is not paper. It never was. I translated the accounts into a language only you and I understood." Mara's brow tightened. "When you were little, we called it the bell game. I gave every sound a number, every number a word, and every word a place." Fragments flashed through Mara's mind. Church bells, colored glass, her mother whispering numbers while young Mara repeated them. "The key opens a deposit box at Union Central Station. Inside is a music box. The melody contains the account sequence." Dante's face hardened. Union Central had been demolished 15 years earlier. The recording continued. "If the station is gone, find the angel in St. Michael's. Dante will understand." Mara looked at him. "You knew." "I knew there was another hiding place. Not where." Evelyn's voice softened. "Dante saved your life once. That does not make him innocent. It only means he was capable of choosing differently." Dante looked away. Do not confuse his protection with freedom. Men raised to possess power often mistake love for control. The words landed between them. Mara watched his expression close. Then Evelyn said, "But do not mistake fear for truth either. The boy I knew was not cruel. He was terrified of becoming his father." The tape clicked off. Rain struck the windows. Dante walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" "To give you privacy. You listened to every word except the ones that mattered." His hand remained on the lock. Mara stood. "My mother trusted you. She warned you about me. She also believed you could choose differently." Dante turned. "You think one dead woman's hope changes what I am? No, I think your choices do." He looked exhausted for the first time since she had met him. Not physically, as if holding himself together had become painful. Mara approached slowly. There was dried blood on his collar from the wound beneath his bandage. Without asking, she opened the medical kit Matteo had left and guided Dante toward a chair. "I do not need sit," he obeyed. The power of it startled them both. Mara removed the damaged bandage. The graze had reopened during the escape. "You destroyed your own vaults," she said. "They were compromised. For me." His silence answered. She cleaned the wound. Dante watched her face instead of her hands. "You keep looking at me like I'm going to disappear," she said. "People near me disappear. My mother did." "Yes, did you love her?" Dante's expression sharpened. "No. Then why did you risk your life for her?" "Because she was the first person who looked at me and saw a child instead of an heir." Mara secured the clean bandage. "And what do you see when you look at me?" His hand rose toward her face. It stopped an inch from her skin. Something I was never supposed to want. The room seemed to narrow around them. Mara's pulse moved beneath her throat. "You don't know me. I know you drink coffee when you are tired and tea when you are afraid. That is surveillance. I know you translate angry men more accurately than frightened ones, because anger makes sense to you." Her breath caught. "I know you leave one lamp burning on the anniversary of your mother's death. I know you pretend not to care when people disappoint you. I know you hate asking for help, because every person you depended on eventually left." His fingers finally touched her cheek. Barely. Mara should have stepped away. Instead, she leaned into his hand before she could stop herself. Dante's control broke in his eyes. He stood, bringing them close enough that she felt his breath against her lips. "If I kiss you," he said, "you will hate me tomorrow. I already hate you today." That is not the same. His hand moved to the back of her neck. Mara gripped his shirt. For one dangerous second, neither of them breathed. Then Dante pulled away. He crossed the room, as if distance were the only thing keeping him civilized. Mara hated the emptiness his absence left behind. A secure phone vibrated on the table. Dante ignored it. It vibrated again. Mara looked at the screen. A message preview appeared from an encrypted contact. "Bennett has remembered the church. Begin Phase 2. Below it was an attached FBI personnel file. Her personnel file. Mara opened it before Dante could stop her. Inside were assignment requests bearing signatures from senior agents. Transfer approvals, case recommendations, every major decision of her 6-year career, and beside each one was the same authorization code, DV01. Mara looked up slowly. "What is this?" Dante said nothing. "You chose my assignments." His face became unreadable again. "You put me on your cases. I kept you where I could reach you." The tenderness of moments before vanished beneath something colder. Mara stared at the man who had protected her, watched her, and quietly built the boundaries of her entire adult life. "You didn't save me from the cage," she whispered. "You designed it." The words remained between them. "You designed it." Dante stood near the window, rain cutting silver lines across the glass. He did not deny the accusation. Mara held the phone tightly. "How many parts of my life did you touch?" "All assignments connected to the Vescari case." Her laugh broke. "My first transfer, yes. My certification grant, yes. Chicago, yes. 6 years of choices." 6 years of believing she had earned the path beneath her feet. You made me investigate you. I kept you where I could reach you. You decided what I saw. I decided what could reach you. That is not protection. It kept you alive. Mara looked at the man who could cross gunfire without hesitation, yet could not understand that saving someone by stealing her choices was another form of harm. You don't trust me. I trust you more than anyone alive. No, you trust your ability to predict me. His silence confirmed it. She placed the pendant and brass key on the table. I'm leaving. No, the word came quietly, dangerously. You don't get to say that. There are men outside this building. There are always men outside every cage you put me in. Dante stepped closer. I can keep you alive. And what will be left of me when you're finished? Something fractured behind his eyes. You think I don't know what I took from you? I think you knew and did it anyway. Yes. The answer stunned her. I knew every intervention would make you hate me if you discovered it. I accepted that. You accepted it for both of us. Yes. Why? For the first time, his voice lost its cold precision. Because your hatred was survivable. Mara's throat tightened. Losing you was not. The confession should have moved her. Instead, it terrified her. That isn't love, Dante. No, he said it before she could continue. It is worse. He stopped close enough that his shadow covered hers. I think about every door you enter, every car that slows beside you, every stranger who looks too long. I know this is not sane. Then let me go. His face became perfectly still. That is the one thing I cannot promise. The lock clicked behind them. Matteo entered holding a phone. The bureau issued an emergency notice. Bennett is listed as abducted and armed. Mara's photograph filled the screen beneath a red banner. Edited garage footage showed Dante dragging her toward the Sive. They made me look like your accomplice. They are isolating you, Dante said. A new message appeared from Daniel Cole. Mara, your mother is alive. Come alone. Mara stopped breathing. Dante took the phone. It's bait. You don't know that. I know, Cole. You thought you knew my mother. The strike landed. Dante looked away first. Mara grabbed her coat. He blocked the door. Move. No. You can lock every exit in Chicago, but you cannot make me choose you. I am not asking you to choose me. You have been choosing for me since before I knew your name. They stood in silence. Then Dante removed a black access card and placed it in her palm. Matteo stared at him. The card unlocked the private garage. Dante's fingers closed over hers. If you go to Cole, do not drink anything. Do not surrender the pendant. If anyone mentions the Holden Foundation Gala, leave immediately. Why? Because that gala is where federal men and criminal families pretend they are different. Mara pulled free. Dante stepped aside. At the door she turned. Was any of it real? Every moment I stayed away from you was real, and every moment you watched. His eyes held hers. Worse. Mara left before the answer could break her resolve. 2 hours later, she entered an FBI field office through an underground garage. Daniel Cole waited beside a glass interview room. I knew you would come, he said. That does not mean I trust you. It means you want the truth. He placed a photograph on the table. An older woman was stepping from a government vehicle 3 days earlier. Evelyn Bennett, alive. Mara's knees nearly failed. Where is she? Protected. By whom? Cole pushed a black envelope toward her. Embossed in silver were the words Holden Foundation. Tomorrow night, he said, your mother will testify before the people who can finally end this. Mara remembered Dante's warning. If anyone mentions the gala, leave immediately. Cole smiled. All you have to do is wear the necklace your mother gave you. Mara felt the blood drain from her face. They did not need her testimony. They needed the pendant to open something at the gala, and she had left it behind with Dante. Mara entered the Holden Foundation gala wearing a silver evening gown, a borrowed smile, and a necklace that could not open anything. Daniel Cole believed the broken wing pendant rested against her throat. It did not. The silver angel beneath the ballroom lights was a replica created by the FBI evidence lab. The original remained inside Dante's safe house, unless he had already moved it or destroyed it to keep her from using it. The thought hurt more than it should have. The Holden Ballroom occupied the top floor of a restored courthouse, overlooking the Chicago River. Crystal chandeliers burned above marble columns. Senators, federal judges, intelligence officials, and corporate donors moved through the room with champagne glasses in their hands. Men Mara had spent years believing were untouchable smiled for cameras beneath banners, promising justice and public service. Cole remained at her side. "You look nervous." "I'm attending a secret hearing at a charity gala while pretending not to have been abducted by a mafia boss. Vescari manipulated you. So did you." Cole's smile tightened. Across the ballroom, an older woman stood near a stained glass window. Mara stopped. The woman had silver threaded through dark hair, a narrow face, and a familiar habit of touching her thumb to the side of her index finger. Evelyn had done that whenever she was afraid. "Mara," the woman whispered. The room disappeared. Mara crossed the floor before Cole could stop her. The woman opened her arms. For one impossible second, Mara was 9 years old again, waiting for a mother who had promised to return before morning. Then Mara stopped beyond her reach. "What song did you sing when I couldn't sleep?" The woman's expression faltered. "Mara, there isn't time." "What song?" Cole approached behind her. "She has been through extensive conditioning." Mara watched the woman's eyes. Not confusion. Fear. The woman was not Evelyn. She was afraid of the men standing behind Mara. "You found someone who resembles her," Mara said. Cole's hand closed around her elbow. "Keep your voice down. You knew I would recognize the photograph, but you were counting on grief to do the rest." The false Evelyn lowered her eyes. Mara pulled her arm free. "Where is my mother?" a voice behind them answered. "She died because she believed institutions could be repaired." Mara turned. Deputy Director Charles Holden stood beneath the chandelier, silver-haired and elegant in a black tuxedo. His official portrait hung in federal buildings across the country. He had approved Mara's security clearance. He had signed the condolence letter after her mother's supposed death. Around him stood 6 officials whose voices Mara had heard buried beneath the altered recordings. She recognized them now, not by their faces, by the way they breathed between lies. Holden extended his hand. "You have your mother's instincts, and you have her blood on your conscience. Conscience is a luxury for people without responsibility." The orchestra continued playing. Guests laughed a few yards away, unaware that the center of the ballroom had become an interrogation chamber. Holden's gaze dropped toward the pendant. "Your mother encoded the ledger inside a sequence we could never complete. The necklace is the final key. It isn't the real necklace." Cole's composure broke. Holden studied the angel, then looked at Mara with cold disappointment. "Where is it?" she smiled. "With the man you taught me to fear." Every door in the ballroom locked at once. The music stopped. Security officers moved toward Mara. Then the central lights went dark. A single spotlight remained over the grand staircase. Dante Vescari stood at the top. He wore a black tuxedo without an overcoat or visible protection. No Matteo, no guards, no weapon in his hands. He had come alone. Whispers swept through the ballroom as cameras turned toward him. Holden's face changed. "You are making a mistake." Dante descended slowly. "No," he said. "I made the mistake 18 months ago when I believed I could keep her safe without destroying you." Mara's heart struck hard against her ribs. Dante did not look at anyone else until he reached her. His gaze moved over her face, her shoulders, her hands checking for harm. "You came," she whispered. "You left the pendant. That is not an answer. It is the only one that matters." Holden raised a hand. Armed federal agents emerged from the balconies. Dante placed a small drive on the nearest champagne table. "What is that?" Cole demanded. "My confession." The ballroom fell silent. Dante looked toward the cameras. "Every payment I made to judges, every port official I bought, Every company I used to hide Vescari money, every federal agent who accepted protection in exchange for information. Mara stared at him. The drive did not contain only evidence against Holden, it contained evidence against Dante. "You'll destroy yourself," she said. His eyes remained on hers. "Yes," Holden stepped forward. "You release that file, and every government agreement protecting your family ends tonight." That is why I brought copies. Screens across the ballroom flickered to life. Bank transfers, recorded meetings, names, dates. Then a live upload counter appeared. Dante had sent the files to journalists, federal oversight officers, and international investigators. Guests began shouting. Phones rang. Officials ran toward locked exits. Holden's carefully constructed world collapsed in public. Cole drew his weapon. Dante moved in front of Mara. "Put it down," Holden ordered. "We need her alive." The words exposed everything. Dozens of guests heard them. Mara looked toward the cameras. "You staged my mother's death. You altered federal evidence. You used witness protection to deliver people to criminal families." Holden's expression turned empty. "We kept the country stable. You kept yourselves powerful." Cole grabbed Mara from behind and pressed the gun against her side. Dante stopped moving. Every trace of emotion vanished from his face, but Mara saw his hands. They were shaking. "Give us the pendant," Cole said. Dante reached into his jacket. The original broken wing angel hung from his fingers. Mara's breath caught. Dante had carried it into the room. Cole tightened his grip. "Slide it across the floor." Dante looked at Mara. She understood the question in his eyes. "Do you trust me?" She gave the smallest nod. Dante closed his fist around the necklace. Then he threw it toward the fireplace. Cole instinctively turned his head. Mara drove her heel into his foot and twisted free. Dante crossed the distance before Cole could recover. He struck the weapon aside and pulled Mara behind him as federal agents surged toward the center of the room. The pendant had not reached the fire. Matteo caught it from behind a marble column. Dante had not come alone, after all. The ballroom erupted. Sprinklers poured from the ceiling. Guests scattered beneath falling water as security teams loyal to different officials turned on one another. Dante took Mara's hand and led her through a service door behind the orchestra. "You exposed everything," she said as they ran into a dark corridor. "Not everything. What is left? The ledger. I thought the drive was the ledger. It was enough to destroy my protection. Not enough to prove what happened to your mother." Behind them, Holden's voice sounded through the emergency system. "Seal the building. Bennett must not reach St. Michael's." Mara stopped. Dante looked back. Why would he name the church? Because Holden knew. He had always known where the final evidence was hidden. A distant bell sounded across the river. Once, then again. Mara looked through the rain-streaked window toward the dark silhouette of St. Michael's abandoned cathedral. On its roof, beneath a broken cross, a single light had just turned on. Dante tightened his hand around hers. "They are waiting for us." Mara stared at the church where her mother had vanished, where Dante had first saved her, and where the truth had remained buried for 20 years. Then we stopped running. Together they stepped into the rain. St. Michael's Cathedral had been abandoned for 17 years, but the bells were ringing. Mara heard them through the rain as Dante's car stopped beneath the broken stone steps. 1, 2, 3. The sound rolled across the empty south side street, while black SUVs appeared at both ends of the block. They closed the exits, Matteo said from the front seat. Dante looked at Mara. "You stay with him." "No. This is not a negotiation. You brought me here because only I can find the ledger. I brought you here because you refuse to remain somewhere safe. There is nowhere safe." Dante's jaw tightened. The bells continued. 4, 5. Mara opened the door. Dante caught her wrist before she stepped into the rain. "If this goes wrong, you follow Matteo out through the crypt. And you, I finish it." She looked at his hand around hers. "You keep saying that as though dying is a form of devotion. For men like me, sometimes it is. No, Mara pulled free. It is another decision you make without asking me. Something passed between them. Anger, fear, a truth neither had time to say. The cathedral doors stood open. Inside, hundreds of candles burned beneath a shattered ceiling. Rain fell through the broken roof and struck the stone floor in silver lines. At the altar stood Charles Holden. Daniel Cole waited beside him with 6 armed men, and between them sat the woman from the gala, the false Evelyn. Her hands were bound. Holden smiled as Mara and Dante entered. You always did prefer dramatic entrances. Dante moved half a step in front of Mara. Holden noticed. Evelyn warned me about that weakness, he said. She said, once you decided someone belonged under your protection, you became incapable of strategy. Let her go, Mara said, looking at the bound woman. Holden glanced toward her. You still care about a stranger who helped deceive you. She was afraid. Compassion was your mother's weakness too. The woman raised her face. I'm sorry, she whispered. They promised to protect my son. Mara's eyes moved to Cole. Another family used as leverage. Another lie disguised as protection. Release her, Mara repeated. Cole pressed his gun against the woman's shoulder. Holden nodded toward the altar. Find the ledger first. A faceless stone saint stood behind the ruined altar. Above it, 13 bells hung inside the tower. Mara moved toward the statue. Dante stayed beside her. Holden's men followed. The broken wing pendant felt cold in Mara's palm. She pressed it into a hidden carving beneath the saint's robes. Nothing happened. Cole laughed softly. Your mother trusted a child's memory. Mara studied the carving. The pendant was not the key, it was the instruction. Broken wing, one side missing. She turned the pendant over and found a line of numbers etched along its edge. Not account numbers. Musical intervals. The bell game. Mara looked up at the tower ropes descending beside the altar. When the bells ring 13 times, she whispered, look beneath the saint who has no face. She pulled the ropes in the sequence her mother had taught her. 3rd bell, 1st, 4th, 1st, 5th. The notes formed the beginning of a lullaby, her mother's lullaby. The stone beneath the faceless saint shifted. A narrow compartment opened inside the altar. There was no book, only a music box. Mara lifted it carefully. The same melody began to play. As the metal cylinder turned, tiny punched holes passed beneath the mechanism. Numbers, names, dates. The ledger had been hidden as music all along. Holden stepped forward. Give it to me. Mara held it against her chest. You killed my mother for this. No. The answer came from Cole. Everyone turned. Cole's face had gone pale. Holden looked at him with warning. Mara stared. What happened to her? Cole swallowed. She escaped the church. She was alive for 11 days. Dante's expression darkened. Cole continued. She contacted me. I was a junior agent. She believed I could help her testify. Mara's voice barely emerged. Did you? I told Holden where she was. The cathedral became silent except for the music box. Mara felt the truth move through her without sound. Cole had not merely altered Evelyn's warning, he had delivered her. Why? Mara asked. I was 26. I thought Holden was protecting the bureau. You chose your career. I chose order. Dante moved. Mara caught his arm. He looked at her, and she saw murder in his eyes. Not yet, she whispered. Holden smiled. There is the difference between you and your mother. Evelyn believed evidence changed systems. You understand power. No, Mara said. I understand translation. She looked toward the microphones hidden beneath the candles. The cathedral had been wired. Holden wanted a recorded confession from her, but the microphones were transmitting both ways. Mara had heard the faint digital echo from the moment they entered. She looked at Matteo in the shadows near the crypt. He understood. The gala broadcast had never ended. Every word was still being transmitted. Mara opened the music box and held it near the altar microphone. Charles Holden ordered the disappearance of Evelyn Bennett. Daniel Cole revealed her location. The encoded ledger identifies every official and criminal family involved. Holden's calm finally broke. Take it. His men advanced. Dante drew his weapon. Gunfire shattered the candles. He pulled Mara behind the stone altar as bullets struck marble overhead. Matteo returned fire from the crypt while the false Evelyn crawled toward cover. Cole reached for the music box. Mara kicked it away from him. It slid across the floor toward the open center aisle. Holden ran after it. Dante stepped from behind the altar and fired into the stone near Holden's feet, stopping him. Then Cole aimed at Mara. Dante saw him. He crossed the distance without hesitation. The shot sounded. Dante's body struck Mara's, carrying her to the floor. For one terrible second, she could not breathe. Then she felt warmth spreading through his shirt beneath her hand. "Dante, I'm fine. You're bleeding. Get the box." His voice was strained now, human, afraid not of dying, of failing her. Cole approached through the smoke. Dante tried to rise. Mara took his weapon first. She aimed at Cole. With both hands, he stopped. "You're an FBI officer," Cole said. "You know what he is. Yes, he manipulated you. Yes, he built your entire life around himself. Yes." Cole's eyes flicked toward Dante. "Then let me end this." Mara's finger tightened on the trigger. Dante looked at her. He did not ask her to choose him. He did not order her to fire. He simply said, "Whatever you decide, make it yours." The words struck deeper than any confession. Holden lunged for the music box. The false Evelyn reached it first and threw it toward Mara. Matteo fired at the lights. Darkness swallowed the cathedral. Mara heard running footsteps, a struggle, and the heavy crash of someone falling through the weakened altar rail. When emergency lights flickered on, Holden lay trapped beneath shattered wood. Cole had disappeared into the crypt. Sirens rose outside. Not Holden's agents. Police, federal oversight teams, news helicopters. The transmission had reached the world. Mara knelt beside Dante. Blood darkened his side, but his eyes remained open. She pressed both hands against the wound. "You came here knowing you might not leave. I came because you were here. That is not enough anymore." His breathing faltered. "I know you do not get to watch me from shadows. You do not get to build cages and call them safety. I know you do not get to disappear after this." For the first time, fear entered his face completely. Not fear of death, fear of hope. Mara leaned closer. "If you survive, you answer for everything, your crimes, your lies. What you did to my life. Yes, and then I decide whether there is anything left worth saving." Dante lifted a blood-stained hand toward her face. This time he waited. Mara closed the final distance and pressed her cheek into his palm. Around them, St. Michael's bells began ringing again. Not 13 times, continuously. The truth had finally been released. Dante's eyes closed as footsteps filled the cathedral. Mara held the music box in one hand and the most dangerous man in Chicago with the other. Then the federal teams reached the altar and Dante Vescari stopped breathing. Dante Vescari stopped breathing beneath the bells of St. Michael's. Mara screamed his name as federal medics rushed across the ruined altar. Hands pulled her away. Someone removed Dante's blood-stained palm from her face. Another medic cut open his shirt while Matteo stood frozen beside the broken pews, looking more terrified than Mara had ever seen him. Gunshot wound to the left side. No pulse. Start compressions. Mara watched Dante's body move beneath the medic's hands. The man who had controlled rooms without raising his voice now lay motionless beneath shattered angels and falling rain. The music box remained clutched against Mara's chest. A federal officer reached for it. She stepped back. "No one touches this. Agent Bennett, Deputy Director Holden corrupted this bureau for 20 years. Until an independent team arrives, this evidence stays with me." Across the cathedral, Holden was dragged from beneath the broken rail. Cameras captured his face as officers placed him in restraints. Daniel Cole was found in the crypt 20 minutes later, attempting to burn the remaining transmission equipment. By sunrise, the recording from the cathedral had reached every major network in the country. By noon, judges resigned. Federal officials disappeared from their offices. Arrest warrants crossed borders. The Vescari organization fractured as family members turned against one another to save themselves, and Dante remained in surgery. Mara sat outside the operating room, wearing a silver gown stained dark at the knees. The broken wing pendant rested in her palm. Matteo stood near the window. "If he survives," he said, "they will arrest him. They should." Matteo looked at her sharply. "He confessed. He committed crimes. He destroyed his protection for you. That does not erase what he did." "No." Matteo looked through the glass doors. "But it may be the first honest thing he ever did." The surgeon emerged 4 hours later. Dante was alive. Mara closed her eyes, but relief did not feel like forgiveness. It felt like another beginning she had not yet chosen. 3 days later, she entered Dante's hospital room under federal guard. He was pale beneath the white sheets. One wrist was secured to the bed. His eyes opened when she approached. "You kept breathing," Mara said. "You told me not to disappear." That was not permission to interpret creatively. A faint shadow of his old arrogance returned. "I had limited options." She placed the music box on the table. "I released the entire ledger." Dante studied her face. "Including the Vescari accounts, yes. My father's judges, yes. My shipping network, yes." He nodded slowly. "You destroyed what remained of my empire. It was my decision." Something almost like pride entered his eyes. "Yes," he said, "it was." Mara looked at the restraint around his wrist. "I gave investigators everything you stored about me, the surveillance records, the manipulated assignments, every identity you created. I expected you would. You will testify. Yes, you may spend years in prison. Yes." She hated how calmly he accepted it. "Stop making punishment look like devotion." His gaze softened. "I am not. Then what are you doing?" "Learning not to ask you to save me." Mara's breath caught. Dante lifted his free hand, then allowed it to fall without reaching for her. For the first time, he left the distance between them untouched. Mara walked away. Over the next 6 months, the Holden investigation became the largest federal corruption case in decades. Charles Holden and Daniel Cole were charged with conspiracy, witness tampering, and the disappearance of Evelyn Bennett. Evelyn's remains were recovered beneath an abandoned government safehouse outside Milwaukee. Mara buried her mother under her real name. Dante testified from a secured medical facility, exposing rival families, federal collaborators, and his own organization. In exchange, prosecutors considered a reduced sentence. Then, 48 hours before his final hearing, the transport carrying him vanished beneath an overpass. The guards were found alive. Dante was gone. No ransom demand arrived. No body was recovered. Matteo disappeared the same night. The government called it an escape. Mara called it exactly what she had forbidden him to do: disappear. She resigned from the FBI and began working with an independent commission translating evidence from the Holden files. She moved into a small apartment near the lake under a name of her own choosing. No cameras watched the entrance. No black SUVs waited across the street. For the first time in years, her life belonged entirely to her. And still, on rainy nights, she found herself looking through the window. 6 months after Dante vanished, Mara returned home shortly before midnight. A security alert appeared on her phone. Motion detected outside your apartment. She opened the camera feed. A man stood beneath the streetlight across the road. Black coat, dark hair touched with rain, a stillness she would have recognized anywhere. Dante. He did not approach the building. He did not call. He only watched the entrance long enough to confirm she had arrived safely. Then he turned away. Mara ran downstairs. Rain struck her face as she stepped into the empty street. Dante. He stopped. For several seconds, he remained with his back to her. "You promised not to disappear," she said. "I never promised. Then turn around and lie to me properly." He faced her. A thin scar crossed his temple. He looked leaner, warier, and somehow less protected without men surrounding him. "I came to make sure you were safe," he said. "You installed the camera?" "No," she almost smiled. Progress. Dante looked toward the apartment. You built a life. Yes, without me. Yes. Pain moved through his expression, but he did not hide from it. I will leave. Mara walked closer. His hands remained at his sides. You don't get to decide that either. Hope frightened him more than weapons ever had. What do you want? He asked. Mara stopped inches away. I want the truth when it hurts you, distance when I ask for it. No surveillance, no cages, no decisions made in my name. And if I fail, you leave when I tell you to. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. And what do I receive in return? The chance to become someone I might choose. Dante looked at her as if she had offered him something more dangerous than forgiveness. Freedom slowly, he lifted his hand. This time he waited. Mara placed her fingers in his. The city moved around them, cars passing through rain, lights glowing above the river, strangers hurrying home. Without knowing, the most feared man in Chicago stood motionless beneath a streetlight because one woman had finally taught him that love was not the right to possess someone. It was the courage to let her choose. Mara stepped closer. Dante lowered his forehead to hers. He did not claim her. He did not promise innocence. He simply remained, and when she kissed him beneath the Chicago rain, it was not because he had saved her. It was because, for the first time, he had allowed her to save herself and stayed only after she asked him to.